Hello and welcome to the Block by Block panel. Thank you for all coming. I actually know you will not regret it. It is just a wonderful program. And speaking about it today, we have Pontus, Thomas, Phil, and Matt. This is FyreUK, who community members who do all our building, but they probably don't need an introduction at this point. But they're going to talk about block by block. I have personally been out to one of the sites, actually two of the sites in Kenya, and it's just an incredible thing to, the first time the guys made the map, and then I walked onto Salonga Sports Field in real life and saw it. It was just like, it took my breath away to be where they had made it in the game, and it looked so similar. It's just an incredible experience. So they're going to tell you all about the program today. It's one of the things that I'm most proud to work on at Mojang. So without further ado.
Let's get started so we can use the time as much as possible. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for coming to look a little into the program that we are doing together with Mojang. We come from UN Habitat. What's UN Habitat? It's a part of the United Nations. It's that part of United Nations that works with cities, works with housing and cities. Now, cities has always been there in the history, and they have always been kind of growing. But today, they are growing much faster. Today, we have a world where half of the population in the world live in cities. That has never happened before. And in like 20, 30 years' time, we're going to have 2/3 of the population to live in cities. That's about, we think, 200,000 people a day that the cities in the world is growing with. Now, 200,000, that's a whole city by itself. Every day, 365 days a year. So this starts to become a tremendous challenge because the world has not really been used to the speed of the urbanization. And there is many, many good things with cities. Most of us live in cities and we like it. But there is also some kind of dubious things with cities when they don't work. So we who work in UN Habitat, we try to secure that cities in the urbanization that we are challenging right now, that they are developing in a good way. We are a global organization. Well, the UN is global, as we all know, but we have our headquarters in Nairobi, one of the few UN headquarters which is in the southern part of the world, and then we have offices all around the world, and we have projects all around the world. I'm not going to give you the story of UN Habitat here. But one thing that we are dealing with is how cities really should function. And one thing that you need in cities to function, that is that you need something which is common. You know, the issue with cities is not your private house or your private office. The things with cities, the things that you actually remember, the things that gives the soul to the city, that's the public space. The things which is common. The parks, the streets, the markets, the waterfronts, whatever, it differs from different cities. It's really the things that makes things in the city to work. No streets, you cannot transport yourself. No squares, you cannot meet. So we have to get all these things to work in the cities, and that sometimes is not so easy, and that is what we are actually working with. The importance of the public space is something that we have created a large global program. We are talking to cities all over the world. How can you improve your public spaces? How can you enlarge them? How can you make them work for everyone? How can you make them secure? How can you make them financially viable? And how can you secure that they don't deteriorate? We have started this program not so long ago, so we are still in the building up phase. But there is quite some places in the world where we are now negotiating with governments or local authorities to get into their cities, to get into their legislation. Because it's not only a question about getting the sites as physical to work, it's also to get the right advice for people who is building cities. How much streets do you need? How much squares do you need? How do you make them function? So the program that we are working with is having a component which works with software, legislation, policies, training of staff, making cities to understand the needs. And then it has a hardware component where we actually pick a couple of 2, 3 pilot sites in a city, and we do development of these pilot sites together with partners in these cities. Now, the partners, we usually would like to work with the local authorities because then we know that they will multiply what has been done. Sometimes we work with an NGO, sometimes we work with international partners, private sectors, and so forth. But we really try to get local authorities to be involved. And one of the beauties with this program is that we have actually managed to get Mojang involved. That's the definition of private sector. And we have created this block-by-block project together where we are commonly talking about these issues, where we are fundraising together, and where we are trying to get to utilize the wonderful ideas which is embedded in Minecraft into the planning components of this program. We will get a more detailed description of how that can work. So I suppose that you all, when I say public space, you all think about Times Square or, you know, the public spaces in your area. But public spaces can be pretty different when you are in other places of the world. And if one can get these type of areas to work better for the people that lives in unfortunate circumstances, they are pretty clever in actually organizing their lives. You just have to give them a little, slightly better. Some works with school, some works with health. We work with public space. A little improvement gives the efforts that all these people put into their life, gives better results. This is from Kibera, which is in Nairobi, and here is one of the sites where we have started to work with the local community, and we're working with the authorities in Nairobi. And you cannot believe this, but in this area there is like 200,000 people living, and when we started this program, and when Mojang got interested, suddenly also the politicians in the city gets interested. Hey, there is international people coming from outside, there is these computer games, that's very interesting. So we managed to get the local authorities to come out to the slums and talk to the people, which is 200,000 people. That had never happened before. Not a single communication between local authorities and people before this project started. Now, the beauty with a communication is that suddenly the people who decide starts to understand a little what the people need, and the people who need things, they start to understand also what are the possibilities for the local authorities, and you start to also get different types of groups that comes to these meetings. It's the youth people, it's the soccer team, it's the hawkers, it's the school and whatever, and they don't really have the same opinion about what's going to happen with this sports field. So the dialogue gets longer and more intense, and then the municipality starts to do drawings. The engineers comes with ties, and the engineers comes and they talk about technical solutions and about money. It's very difficult to read a drawing if you cannot, you have no schooling. And how can you get people to understand what are these engineers which are so scary in their ties? What are they talking about? And say, no, that's not possible, and that's too expensive, and whatever. Then we used Minecraft. And we can get people to see and understand and talk about this sport field in a language which they understand. But the engineers, they cannot play games. So suddenly we have a tool for talking which the soccer team understands much better than the engineers and the politicians. Now, the engineers and the politicians, they have all the power traditionally. So when they are in a meeting, if we can cut a little of their power and give that power to the guys that lives in the area, that's also an achievement, which is tremendous. That's the best thing. Here is a picture of our workshop when we are actually using the game and we are getting people to understand what is this all about. Now, just a little bracket here, that if you come out to a person that has never been asked in their whole life for generations about what they think about anything, they get really kind of happy about that. Suddenly someone is talking to them. Actually means that they don't want to stop talk. Because this is the first time it ever happened, right? So maybe we can have another meeting and another meeting. And by the way, there is also another issue that I want to talk to. So our startup phases in these projects that we are running are fairly long. But it actually guarantees that the solution that you actually come up with at the end is actually bought by everyone. So, when the train starts, everyone is on board. You don't leave half of the population at the platform. So I think we know that it's actually worth it if you want to have something which is sustainable. Here is another site which we are talking to. Huge slum area in Mumbai. Dharavi, which is like, now we're not talking 200,000, this is up to 1 million people. No public spaces, very, very few. This is actually an old playground that is completely dilapidated and full of waste and garbage and so forth. That is going to be transformed. And here we have another site which is really interesting, because in Nepal they have an old culture of how to deal with water. And here is a water pond that traditionally holds fresh water coming down from the mountains, and then people who lives in the community around, they come, they wash their clothes, they pick up the water and so forth. And this is now going to be upgraded and modernized, and one is going to also introduce other components in this public space that's going to be renovated. Haiti, all the whole country actually more or less got devastated after the earthquake. And here is some 3 sites that we are developing together with the local authority, where one will try to utilize different community groups, and we are also going to combine this with information technology. So one of the sites is going to be a hotspot that will be the only free hotspot where people can go with there. And of course, they don't have computers very much, but they have smartphones actually, because smartphones is starting to be so cheap in the world. So this is a way for people to get close to information and to then emphasize. If you have the information, it's easier for you to talk to the people that influence your work. So the program that we are running, it's global, it's all over the world, and we are heading for a huge UN conference that is going to happen 2016. And when that conference happens, we hope that we will be able to show to the world that we cannot have an urbanization without public space, quality public space. That's kind of the framework where we try to put these issues, and now we'll move over to the guys that actually really makes the dialogue happen together with the communities.
Thank you. We're just going to load up a quick video, which is a time-lapse of the Kibera site. We're just going to play for that real quick before we start talking.
Okay. That's actually something we did last year, but we've shown it again because we're currently working on so many other projects for this, so many other things, but we're going to be developing time lapses and other cool videos for all the other sites that we work on as well, such as Kathmandu and Mumbai. So we've got a lot of really cool things that we're going to be making, and all those places that was discussed in the presentation earlier, they're all going to be made in Minecraft, and they're all going to be sites that people will be able to go in and play and do really cool things. And I think, Phil, you have a really good idea now, being out there and working with people in Kenya, what it's going to be like kind of developing, these builds in Minecraft and what people are going to be able to use them for. So if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, it's, well, for those that saw the opening ceremony, I talked about how with the Kibera site, I didn't actually go out to the site until after I had built it, but with projects we're going on forward now, I'm getting to travel to the sites and get a good feel for them, understand the community before going in, which is really crucial for recreating it. I mean, when you look at the build there, compared to some of the other stuff that we've made in Minecraft, it's simplistic, but it's so much more, it's more effective. Simple is a lot better, and that's kind of what we're trying to get with this project. Is it's not to try and have lots of complicated plans or something that's difficult to look at. That's completely the opposite. When we walked in in Minecraft, we're there for the first time, and everybody looked at it. Everyone in the workshop, there was this, like this sudden realization, and it was instant. They immediately understood what people were trying to explain with these designs, all these engineers, and what they were, trying to get across, and all these technical things. And then as soon as you showed them, it in Minecraft in this, simple blocky form, they could see, and they could walk around very easily. For those of you who play Minecraft in here, when you first get into it, it's a little bit overwhelming, but after a while, once you get used to the game, it's actually, it's really easy to come in and say, I like what you've done there, but, I would like to see these changes. And they can instantly go in and, affect a change in their area. I mean, teaching them Minecraft is something that is very easy to do once we've, had the proper workshops and stuff set up, which is something we've been working very hard to try and accomplish. Bearing in mind that a lot of people in these areas, very few of them actually have computers themselves, let alone have played a video game that, requires you to use both hands, and then, you're punching something, and, what's this over here? And it's all a little bit confusing and daunting at first. But when you take a step back and look at what Minecraft is, it's, you project what's in your mind into the game. You say, I want to build a wall here. Okay, well, just place a wall. Or, oh, that's a little bit too far forward. Okay, break the wall, build it again. And it's that sort of process that we're working closely with. But yeah, we've been working on quite a few sites now. And as Thomas explained earlier, they do take a long time to go through all of the different stages, going through the right channels and making sure that it's done, not just, correctly for the community, but just, complete all around, it's effective. So. But yeah, once I've been out to the sites and I've collected the image, what we then do is we bring all of that reference material back with us. And then I sit down with Matt and a few other of our members on our server, and we go through it and we try and map it out to start with in-game. And then we go through and we'll say, try a few attempts at one building, building up. Does that look correct? And we just go through that process over a few weeks, and then we end up with the actual model in there. But Matt, do you want to explain a little bit about the actual process on there?
Yeah. So with when we build things in Minecraft, it's one of those things where we just go in and we make things. Sometimes it's something that's an idea in someone's head. Sometimes it's a reference image, and with these, it's obviously video or images that we've found. That either Phil has taken or we've been supplied by Pontus, or we've found obviously on Google with Google Maps or something like that, and we collate all those together and we go, okay, we're going to build this here, build this there. And what it does is it allows us to almost 3D map an area, but we recreate it in Minecraft, almost using the blocks as pixels in a way to kind of recreate these things on a slightly smaller scale. And then when we have made these things, we obviously take them to the communities and they can go in and they can build what they'd like to see in these places and learn what Minecraft is and do things with them. And it's interesting to see with what we've already done, we've actually also gone in and made some changes and, you know, evolved that in time a little bit. And it's interesting to see how things change, because at the end of the day, the places are going to change in time, and the places are going to change with once things have been built there, which is obviously the end goal of this project, is to have something there for people to visit, something there for people to use that isn't there previously. And these people can build these things in Minecraft, and then other people can come in and say, yeah, that's a good idea, let's put that there and stuff like that. And that's why Minecraft is probably the best tool for this. You know, someone asked me earlier that why don't we say use AutoCAD or 3ds Max for these things, but trying to teach people a 3D modeling program would take a very, very long time. But Minecraft is simplistic enough that you're going to be able to pick it up after just a few minutes of playing. You know, its visuals may be simplistic, but what you can do with the game, that's where it gets complicated and gets exciting, and you can do really interesting and different things.
Yeah, the site that we had and showed on there, that's the first iteration of it. So that's the site practically as it stands now. What we did after that was we actually talked with an architect that has come up with the designs, and I sat down with her and we recreated her imagining of the site. And then from that, it was, you know, she could easily just, you know, show her designs off and talk about them in a way, but again, the same sort of questions as Master just raised, you know, why don't we use an animation program? Why don't we use this? And it is the important factor is that Minecraft is not striving to be, you know, the most detailed, you know, program that we're using. That's not what it's meant for. It's communication solely. And getting someone to actually feel as though they're walking around in this world, and you have all of the, you know, okay, I've got that much space coming into that walkway. You can't really do that with any sort of, you know, program. You can't bring people in to, you know, solely look at things. You can only sort of fly around or do camera movements or, you know, just still images. So it really is all about the spacing, and that's what the program's for. It's public space. People want to know, okay, that's a nice picture, you know, of that nice new site, but, you know, what does that mean? You know, I need something to reference. You know, you always need someone like standing there, or, you know, an object that is common and familiar to you. And with Minecraft being, you know, you're about, you know, one and a bit meters tall, I think it is, 1.5.
Per block, isn't it, a meter?
Yeah, it's a meter per block. Something I should probably have found out before coming up on here. It's something that's not generally, known actually, you know, how tall your Minecraft player is, but, you know, you are that person, you know, you go through a door, that is how high the door is. You have that, you know, common ground on there, so.
Okay, so I think we're going to do some questions now. I think we've got, it looks like around 10-15 minutes to answer some questions if anyone has some. I don't know if we're going to get a microphone going around or if people just want to yell it out.
Yeah, I think, if we give Pontus.
Yeah, you can if you like. Let's do this. So we'll take 3 questions at a time, and then we'll answer them.
Is it hard transferring from like creative builds that just come from your mind to doing like super realistic builds?
Are we going to do them one at a time? Yeah. Fair. We'll take 3 questions, yeah, but.
Okay.
Bit of a longer question. Yeah, I'm a sustainable energy developer, so we build solar, wind, and hydro plants. And we have a program around the world called Smart Sister Cities, where we encourage small cities, not the big cities of the world, small tier 2 and tier 3 cities to join together to become smart cities. And I love what you said about this this concept of the democratization of this, because when you look at smart cities, it's these big companies and the politicians that are pretty much defining how these cities are going to get built. And do you think that Minecraft could be used for maybe letting people have more of a voice in designing the smart cities of the future that right now is pretty much controlled by large corporate interests?
Awesome. We'll do one more, and then they'll answer those, and then I'll run around to the rest of you.
Do you use any mods or texture packs? Like, I saw in the video you used a texture pack, but do you use mods sometimes for landscaping and stuff, or is it all just vanilla, except for the texture pack because you had a texture pack? So.
Actually, I think that was in default. That was default, actually. It just looked a little bit different because there's some video editing on top where it makes it look a little bit more brown, but that is totally default. But back to the first question, which was, is it kind of different, hard for us to kind of build things that usually we build things out of our heads, and now this is something that's realistic? It can be, because obviously we have to get things right. You know, we have to make things look how they would to these people when we take it to these communities. They're going to go around it and they're going to know these areas. So yes, but at the same time, it's a different experience with Minecraft. You know, sometimes if we're building something off our head, we just run straight in and we build it really quickly. But with this, we have to be very methodical, very careful with what we do, because if we're not, people are going to know that it's wrong. You know, people can be like, oh, that building's not supposed to be there, or that's not there. And that's something we've been kind of practicing and getting used to and kind of improving on. Because sometimes you got to think that when you take a picture with a camera, the field of view of that camera is going to be relative to the lens. So in Minecraft, you have a different field of view. So you've got to be very careful to get the places to look right, because buildings can look very strange in photographs. So that's something that's fairly easy. Now, Phil, do you want to tackle the other question, which I think is a very good question?
I think, you know, Minecraft in itself is very much a communication tool in terms of what we're doing with this project. So yes, I think if you're wanting to open it up to just anyone to sort of come in and you know, maybe modify things, I definitely think that's an option. We are in the process of talking about how we're going to run most of the workshops we're going into the future. And a lot of it involves, you know, do we have something set up that we give them a task? So for instance, we have an area and we'll put some, you know, garbage all over the place, and we'll say, okay, you know, this is the space as it is at the moment. We want you guys to come in and try and clean it up, and you know, you get the kids to run around and break all of the garbage blocks and stuff like that. So, yeah, I think if you can develop the right sort of workshop that's appropriate to what you're developing, I think absolutely, you know, you can use, you know, Minecraft can be used in so many different ways. You know, people make videos of it, they make music videos, they make custom game types in there, they just create a world, they play survival together. There's so many options for it that I don't see why you can't, you know, if developed properly, you can't find something that's appropriate for you to use, yeah. And the other question about modding? We do have mods on our server for creative purposes. Two of which, one is called World Edit, the other one is called Voxel Sniper. So World Edit, to explain to the rest of you who don't know what that is, it allows us to select regions within the game and essentially copy them and paste them areas, or set them all to one type of block or something like that, which is mostly for time saving, rather than having to go out and hash out and do all of one block. And the Voxel Sniper one is more for terrain, so when we're like doing mountains and stuff, rather than going in and doing it by hand, it allows us to sort of mold and meld it to something more appropriate.
Awesome. We'll take 3 more.
Okay, I was wondering, what was the hardest area to recreate in Minecraft?
I just want to make a statement first and a quick question. The statement is, it's very easy to almost trivialize a creative process inside a video game. We all know what FyreUK does, and you look at some of your work, go, that's cool, and then you move on. What you're doing right now, though, is changing the world, and I think it's just fantastic you guys got involved with this, and fantastic that you and Habitats were thinking enough out of the box to embrace something like this. I just think that's wonderful, so good job, kudos to all of you. Second of all, though, the question, the stuff that you just showed us, the time-lapse you just showed us, and perhaps other work that you're doing, is this available online, you know, to share around to let other people know outside of Minecon here what you guys are up to?
Great questions, everyone.
Hello. I don't know anything about Minecraft. I'm a babysitter here, but I do know something about the architectural and design process, and I'm curious to know, first of all, at some point, do you need to download, or do you have some way of interfacing with them? You described some interaction with an architect on some of it in terms of, do they take this and then develop technical designs? Do you bypass that process? And how do you work with them? I would suspect they might be kind of resistant to your democratizing their intellectual work, so I'd like to hear about that.
Maybe I can add a little to the previous question there, because when it comes to networking of the cities, in the world. And you also pointed out that you're working with small and medium-sized cities and not the big ones. And that is really important, because when you say cities and towns, usually people think big cities, but that's not where the people live. The majority of the urban population in the world lives in small and medium-sized cities, and they don't have the capacity and they don't have the knowledge. You know, big cities, at least they have some staff and some money, but the other ones are really the problem. And what is also important here is that the world is not only urbanizing, the world is also getting younger. So in the developing world, half of the population, or even more, is younger than 25 years. In some countries, they are younger than 20. The majority of the population. So, I mean, when you have these kind of the engineers that I spoke about previously who says, oh, let's do our solution, and then we maybe should add something on for the youth. That's not kind of how it should be. It should be for the youth, because that is the guys, and they speak this language. And I want to add another thing here onto the Minecraft, because there are, of course, beautiful design programs where you can design these things three-dimensional, but they are so perfect, so they scare people. Because if you look at something that looks perfect, you think it's ready. So if you are a community who are sitting somewhere and the engineers will come with a perfect computer program or the perfect drawing, they cannot really dare to say that, yeah, but by the way, this is not how we want it. But Minecraft is a little kind of more halfway, and you know, you can add and you can take away. It doesn't really look like it's the final solution. So, and for us, obviously, in UN Habitat, Minecraft is not a game. It's a fantastic communication tool that some people play with, but we work with it.
I'll go back to one of the questions, which was, I think, about which place was hardest to build. And we've only built one fully so far, but, well, technically two. But I suppose the one in the time-lapse was fairly difficult to get correct in terms of scale, because buildings were kind of off in the distance and there was trees in certain areas. So we kind of had to pinpoint that exactly. But what we've learned from that, we'll definitely be applying to our future builds that we do on it.
Yes, I mean, obviously, as we said, you know, there's all the blocks are 1 meter by 1 meter, and you're obviously going to run into circumstances where you don't have a meter space, you have a half a meter space, like between two buildings. So how do you address that sort of thing? And I think that with Minecraft, with the builds that we've made for the UN, you have to take everything with a pinch of salt, basically. You know, nothing is absolute finite. It's not there to give you the down, you know, to the final detail impression. It's there to give you the general idea of the space. So, yeah.
The other question about if you can play these things or, you know, use them in any way, you can find a lot of the information on, I believe it's blockbyblock.org, yeah, which is the website all about this. And in terms of them being downloadable at the moment, there's no way to do that, but we are looking into ways to allow Minecrafters to come onto a server and play and help build and kind of share their ideas as well. And that's something that, if does happen, and any updates about that will be on blockbyblock.org and in the future. And then I think the final question was about...
The final question was, she was asking, how do the architects feel? Are you using it to be the kind of final product? How is that working together?
Well, I mean, as we said, we use this tool in the communication with the community. And then that's perfect for that. Then it's not that we take the solution and give it to a contractor and say, build it. Obviously, there is then tender drawings and things that is being done. But using this tool gives us the possibility for the community to get much, much further into the design than what would happen if we didn't have it. So they can give much more detailed advice to the planner or to the architect who is then doing the working drawings.
Okay, great. We have another one. Here you go. I'll pass this down.
Hi. We're also architects and urban designers. And for about 20 years, we've been working with communities to gain community support for our projects in urban centers and also in rural areas, but urban centers like San Francisco. And we have to build consensus within the community to get the project off the ground. And we use blocks, styrofoam blocks. three-dimensional blocks to build with because it's something the community can use. They have the site, we break them into teams, and they use the blocks to build out what you would do in Minecraft. Now, I understand you could understand how they use that interface because they're just using their hands in styrofoam blocks, just like you would with Minecraft. But how do they use the interface in your case? You've said before they don't have computers. You can assume they're not computer literate. Who manages the cursor? How does it work?
Well, I can say that they don't have computers, but they are not computer illiterate, because they know people who have computers and they have smartphones and they have played Angry Birds and these kind of things, all of them. So that means that when we come with something which might be a new interface for them, it's not that complicated actually to actually introduce them to Minecraft as such. We are also, these projects that we are running, they're all expensive, and we try to limit the investment that we do in every site. And that means that we are also thinking about now putting a price on these blocks. So you can then easily have a community, and if you use these blocks here for a couple of benches, that means that the budget goes down, and so it will not only be a block of material, it will also be a block of finance. You want to add?
I think we have time for one more question, but just quickly to add on to that. The way Minecraft works in general is kind of something that can be adapted and changed, but I think anyone can kind of take their baby steps with the program. I feel like even in real life, there's going to be, a learning curve, even if it is just placing styrofoam blocks around. People will have to learn where to put them, where it'd be good and stuff. And it starts like that in Minecraft. You have to tell people how to move and where to put things. And showing people a keyboard and saying WASD is how to move, people go, oh, okay, how do I look around? It's the mouse, okay. It's kind of like when you give someone an Xbox controller for the first time, they don't know which analog stick does what. But Minecraft is so simple in how it portrays everything that people learn it quick enough. Did you have any issues when you kind of using people and showing people everything in Nairobi?
Not particularly, actually. People visually picked it up extremely quickly, and as Thomas said, those that don't have computers at home, they know someone, or there is some form of contact where they have had some experience with computers before, so it's very easy to get from there. But no, people did pick up quickly. Another advantage of using Minecraft is in terms of physical blocks is that with Minecraft's online capacity, we can outreach to people on one server, have the model on there, and have people from all over the world connect in and join in the workshops and the sessions. So we can have sessions in Nairobi, in Nepal, and we can just sit at home and we can connect to these different countries instantly without having to travel and worry about taking the models and damages or anything like that to them as well. But
and in terms of computers, we in the places that we work, we try to partner with some kind of local IT center or IT hub or something like that. So in Kibera, for example, in Nairobi, we were at an IT community center where we did the workshops, and we're going to be doing the same in Nepal and India. So there'll be a space where people can come and use computers even if they don't have them themselves.
Awesome. Last question.
When you are doing the recreations in Minecraft and you want to add more stuff to them, and you let the public people edit it, how can you tell or let them know if what they're making when you recreate it in real life, if it's going to be structurally safe or able to use properly?
Well, generally what we do with them coming in for the Minecraft sessions it's mostly the ideas of what's going to go there. So someone can say, oh, we need a storage place for storing equipment that we use here, and so they'll create a basic room you can walk in and out of and stuff there. But once the idea is there, it then goes on to the architects to actually design the space themselves. So it wouldn't be an exact a short room like that. They would basically find something like, right, you want a room there. Either we build a small one with walls and a roof and stuff on it, or we give you a container or something like that. This then goes into the options there. That's not really dealt with on the Minecraft side. That's sort of later on down the road, depending on what's useful to the local community from there.
Okay, well, hopefully that was enough, and we have, pleased your appetite for what kind of we've shown here, and we're definitely going to be adding a lot more to blockbyblock.org over the coming year, because we've got a lot of huge projects with this to, evolve and kind of go forward with. So I just want to thank you all from, all of us here. Thank you for coming to the panel.
Yes, I also would like to say thank you for coming, but I also would like to say thank you to Minecraft, because we are now developing a friendship, a partnership with Minecraft that goes far beyond financial support to what we are doing. We are now suddenly getting input from part of this, the youth part of the world that I was talking to. So we now have a creative situation where our programs in the UN actually gets influenced by real people in the real world who has never really thought of actually talking with the UN before. So I'm very, very grateful for this partnership that we have with Mojang and Minecraft.